The first thing I want to mention is a couple of things. One, the first thing I'm going to mention is a couple of things. Okay, I'm going to start with a logical inconsistency. Earthlight Institute is an organization I've just been working on that is meant to fill the niche, depending on how posh you are, of looking into the vision and working on the vision level activities for our movement. I believe that has been missing for quite a while. And it is something to me that is important, and we need to have it. We're looking at different things. We're working on the encyclopediagalactica.com. We're talking to SEDS about that. We'd love to have you on board. We're going to be looking at different sort of activities like open source hardware development and other sorts of activities. Pat Rawlings, the space artist, is leading a team that's going to be sort of creating a vision of the future that we can distribute to our community. So we're very excited about that. Another group that I'm very proud of is the Space Frontier Foundation. Space Frontier Foundation was doing space when commercial space and space settlement when it wasn't cool. And I urge you to go look up the history of the organization. If you see people with that little lapel pin on, go talk to them, ask them about it. We are the revolutionaries, and often they'll be wearing black. I don't know why, but black, it's the new black. We are about making this happen. We are excited about it. We live it. It's our cause. We've taken a lot of hits to get here. All of us have, but we are here. Now, a little bit of background here. This is really important. When you go in there to the bookstore that's in the display area, you must buy or steal, buy this book. This is The High Frontier. This is the Bible of our cause. This is the core from which we have been born as an organization or as organizations. Dr. O'Neill was the godfather of soul of the space movement. He is the one who took a bunch of us who were not in NASA and said, you could participate in the opening of space. You can be a part of this. You don't have to work for an aerospace company or a government agency. Dimandis, Todd Hawley, myself, Jim Muncie, a whole bunch of us, Gary Barnard, all of us. We used to call ourselves Jerry's kids. He is the guy who gave us permission to dream that we could do something powerful and important and change the world. We were sitting where you're sitting right now, in a sense. From Dr. O'Neill, the L5 Society was born. The National Space Society, or a portion of it, was born. The Space Frontier Foundation, Earthlight Institute, ISU, SEDS. It all came from that root. I literally remember sitting around in Princeton in a bar. A lot of things happened in bars, probably still do, where we pledged our lives and fortunes to make this happen in our lifetime. And we were all around. We were there. Some of us had gone to bed early, Jim, but the rest of us were there, and he was there in spirit. And we're doing it. We're making it happen. It's going to happen in our lifetimes. Now, that's been our job today, is getting us to this point. Our job has been to take that first, shall we say, step. I'll say second. I'll give credit to our heroes, Neil Armstrong, the people in the Apollo program, the people that got us to that point. So we've taken the second step. Now I'm curious, because we're about to embark on the third step. How many of you guys here would love to work for SpaceX? How many would like to work for Virgin? Bigelow? And I'm sure some of you would love to go up to the space station. Anybody like to go do that? It's cool, isn't it? Yeah. And what's that? Oh my God! Oh my God, Chris missed one! Oh no! You made it through! Oh God! It hit Mojave! No! Oh God! Oh no! I just found out. Oh, Elon was in Mojave when the asteroid hit. And he was taking Bob Bigelow and Richard Branson and Burt Rutan in his new 4-seat Tesla on a ride. And they had Diamandis in the trunk. He's a little guy. Oh. that happened, we'd be over. We'd be done. Now, some of you would say, well, we might now be focused on starting a major space program to deflect future asteroids from hitting the Earth. Tell that to the people in New Jersey and New York City right now who are dealing with FEMA post what happened in New Orleans. We don't have a tendency to learn that well. But what's interesting is how small a group of people there are. We could take all of the leaders of all the commercial new space companies and many of their backers and fit them into this room right here, and that's it for the planet. You're betting your hopes on that. Now, here's the interesting thing. You said you wanted to work for these companies or you wanted to go to these places. The real question is, that we sometimes miss, is why? Why are we doing this? Why is this making a sound? Why? Why are we doing these things? See, we miss that. We're doing these things, we want to go work on rockets because rockets are cool, and I live in a small town part of the time now in East Texas, and they have a Dairy Queen, and on Saturday night everybody goes to the Dairy Queen and everybody's like looking at everybody's cars, and that is cool. And that's what's happened to us now, because, especially this crowd, because we're like engineers, and now it's like, I can see like on Saturday night, Branson pulls up, in the Spaceship One, and here's Elon and his, dragon, and oh, look at that thing, that'll do 0 to 3,000, and we're all about what we're doing. We need to go to the next level. And my challenge to you in this room, SEDS in particular, is that it's up to you to take us there. And it's not going to be necessarily by what you do that we get there. Because see, what you do is actually located at where you are. And that can be gone in a minute. But if we can change the main question and focus on the why we're doing these things, we can change everything. It's like Apple. Apple isn't just it doesn't make computers or phones. It's about personal empowerment. That's why they do it. That's why you have an Apple. That's why. You're not going to go buy a cell phone from a computer company like Dell. But Apple does computers and cell phones and this and that and the other. They do it because they have a reason, a rationale, and you buy into that. And you buy into the why, and that's extremely powerful. And we need to start thinking about the why we do things. For example, this is where we're going. This is where we want to be. I love this picture. They call it the eye of God. Yes, sir. There's a why there. Why did we go to the moon? To do the moon, we go to the moon not because it's easy, because it's hard. No, we went to the moon to beat the Russians. That was why we went to the moon. That's why we're not there now. Because we got there and we had beaten them and the game was over and we were done. We didn't go to the moon to settle the moon. We didn't go to the moon to expand civilization into space. You can't be disappointed. You got to celebrate. We won. We did it. We accomplished the why. So why are we going to go to Mars? Why are we building the SLS that everybody's been slipping into their talks all day? Have you noticed it? Why? To create jobs and take care of important donors and political people who make sure that we get reelected again. We, those people who are supporting it in Congress. That's why. Because if it was about human settlement, if it was about anything else, we wouldn't do it that way. You don't settle a frontier. Never in the history of the planet Earth has a frontier been settled by a small group of people climbing on one gigantic government ship and going to that frontier and declaring it settled. That ain't how it happens. It's all about why. And why are we going into space at all? You're engineers, you are specialists, you are students who are studying space, not just because you like widgets and stuff, it's because you got something going on in here. Chris said it at the end, they're looking for nut jobs. They're looking for crazy-ass people, man. They're looking for people that don't fit in. Why don't you fit in? Because you have a dream that is bigger than the world around you. You have something going on inside of you that when you go home Thanksgiving and Christmas, you have a hard time explaining that to people. You really do. They don't get it. That's why you hang out with each other. Me too. I was there. You know, you're the people that read the science fiction novels. You're the people that go to those and you go, yes, that's what the future looks like to me. That's what it's all about. That's why we are doing this. One of the reasons we came up with for Earthlight was, this is what we call a vision worth living for, to carry the light of life to worlds now dark, to carry the seeds of life to places now dead, and the eyes, hands, and minds of humanity to places yet unseen, untouched, and unexplored. Now that's what we came up for Earthlight, but to me that says it. That's why I get up in the morning. That's why I do this. That's why I go through the that I've gone through to get to this amazing point where I'm being so highly paid to stand on this podium and talk to you. Not. It's because I believe. That's why these people build these rockets. That's why the Diamanduses and the Richard Bransons and the other people, that's why they do this underneath. That's why billionaires make crazy freaking investments in asteroid mining companies and things like that, because they believe. It's not a rational business plan to do 90% of the things we're doing. It's irrational. It's not, the business case doesn't necessarily close that quickly. Yeah, there's some projects and this and that might close. No, this closes on a level of spirituality, on why we are human beings and why we exist. So if that's the case, then we need to start doing something about it. There are some people in this room who want to organize politically. I've heard that there's a movement amongst SEDS. You guys want to do stuff. And I'm going to tell you something, and it's probably to piss off a couple of my friends here, but if you're going to go fight for something, if you're going to put yourself and your time into something, go fracking big. What do I mean by that? If you're going to go lobby in Washington, you can lobby to make sure that SpaceX gets that extra $100 million, or that there's some nuanced shift in the liability laws, or this or that or the other. Go ahead, do that. But if you really want to do something, you gotta go big. We have to not just change what people are talking about in the conversation. We have to change the entire conversation that is going on in space. The government right now, our government, by the way, the government that is like in charge of, shall we say, the country that we're in, while we're doing all our private initiatives and doing all these things, the government that could shut us down like that, or the government that could boost us up like that, they're not doing space for the reasons we want it done. They haven't gotten to the why. That's why nothing is sustainable. That's why everything changes every few years in the space program. We need to create a why. This is a why. But we can bring it down a level. And in 1988, somebody did. The Space Settlement and Development Act of 1988. I was actually working for Dr. O'Neill at the time, and I went on a hiatus. Steve Wolf was working for Congressman Brown, a Democrat from California, and this was passed and signed by Reagan, a Republican from California. And this was the law of the United States for 4 years. That the goal of the human spaceflight program of this country was the settlement of space. And there was this young person at NASA who has to have to deal with it. And, the administrator would say, "Oh, take care of this crap." And Lauren Garver, who's now, deputy administrator. And it was it died a few years later. Why did it die? There's a lot of reasons. One reason is it got passed, and then we, as the space community, my generation of the space community, did exactly what we always do. We went and got into a fight about rockets. All right? We had changed the conversation. We were beginning to change the conversation. And then it was like, oh, something's shiny. And off we went, and we started fighting about, I think it was the National Launch System or something like that. What kind of rockets needed to be built, Instead of building on this opening, taking a stand and saying, this is what this country's human spaceflight program should be about. Now, I'm going to submit to you that I think the next thing we need to do is change the conversation back again. And I think we have an opportunity, after we hit the bottom after the cliff, or we fly, or whatever it is we're going to do with the cliff. But coming into the next year, I think we have an opportunity. And I'm going to propose, and others have talked about this, that we go for you notice I've changed the language, by the way. This was another reason that it probably didn't last. See, the original one, I screwed up the title. The original was the Space Settlement Act of 1988. And the new one is the Space Settlement and Development Act of 2013. We had to get the business in there. We got to get the economics in there. We need to talk about how it's going to transform life on Earth from an economic basis. So it's a different thing this time around. What I like about this is there's a kind of an elegance in this, in that, well, first of all, if you're over on the Republican side of the government, Reagan passed the first one. He's a demigod on that side of the aisle. If you're on the other side of the aisle, it was introduced by a Democrat. Now, there are people out there, we think, who would probably be involved in introducing this and making it happen. Why is it important? Because it's at the top level of the conversation. So we could go from now until Sol freezes over, and we could fight about whether SpaceX gets another $100 million in the CCCP, QRX, DUV, whatever program it is this year. We could do that over and over and over. We can have tactical skirmishes that are without context. And what will happen will be, because the why, the drive that is pushing the culture that we're operating within, the terrain, the entire arena within which we're having that conversation, and because it's all occurring within this arena that has to do with jobs programs today in my district, and this and that and the other, that have nothing to do with a grander perspective, a bigger perspective, lots of jobs in the future, changing the culture of America, reclaiming American leadership. Did you notice during the entire debate, the entire election process, thank God it's over, but did you notice that not once, beyond one guy who talked about putting people on the moon, who was laughed off the stage, but not once did anybody talk about what's happening in commercial space? Because it's not really relevant to the conversation that's going on right now. Although it is iconic, and it actually may be what changes the entire civilization of the planet. People are talking about the loss of American leadership at within the same 18 months that China's been complaining that SpaceX is undercutting their prices. Where does that happen? So, we have to change the conversation. We have to change the arena. We have to change the debate. Change the entire rule. I don't like your rules. Your rules are, how do we get another $100 million for this, and how do we approve, and do we use the FAR contracting process? I don't want, screw you. I'm about human settlement. Robots versus people. Oh, screw you, I can't have that conversation. Of course you said robots first. People follow, robots can't breed. I'm over here. I don't want to have this anymore. I want to change it. Now you have to come over to me and let's talk about this conversation. Now in this conversation, it's about human settlement. You don't settle with mega giant government rockets. You settle by creating an environment in which people can begin to realize their potential. And businesses and entrepreneurs, and the government works with you. So instead of building a space station at the L point. You build a space station that buys propellant from private companies and buys its power from an off-site solar system, solar panel, space solar power satellite. It buys it from an off-site one. It rents its square footage from Bigelow. Oh, and by the way, there's an incentive in there for Bigelow to rent more of it, what's left over, to private citizens. And it all comes together, and then they go off and do Lewis and Clark, and we have what we need and things like that. Oh, by the way, they buy dirt from asteroid mining companies. Just dirt, because you need shielding. Give me dirt. And what you're doing then is you're starting to incentivize. Oh, of course. Now, once you've got this top level thing handled, you start working your way down. See, because it's a cascade, a logical cascade. If you're settling, well, now we need property rights. We need to make sure that people who have invested, get the return on their investment. Now we have to go, it's in the national interest to deal with the United Nations and other countries as to what that means. And now we need this, and now this, and it all starts to cascade down from the top. Right now we're over here, playing with this, or we're over here playing with this. We can change the core discussion. And you have to decide yourselves what you want to put your time and effort into. See, I believe that this is all part of who you are as spacers, or as Earthlighters, or whatever you want to call it. This is part of who you are. You may work for SpaceX. You may go to Arizona State or Buffalo. You may be a member of the National Space Society. You may believe in the Earth-like concept, this and that and the other. You have to do something else about that. You have to create your own climate, your own future that you're going to live into, and what you're going to do about it, and what you're going to do about it right now. So to me, it's about settling. See, if we change the conversation also, we change the context within which the media, and there have been a lot of questions about social media and things like that, we change the context of that conversation as well. Because then, Elon Musk isn't just some rich boy building rockets. He's out there because he's doing something. Richard Branson is not just some rich playboy who's posing with naked girls on his back because he's cool and he wants to do. No. It's because he wants to go here. And he wants to do this. And some of them want to go do this. This is what Jeff Bezos wants to go do. He wants to build a colony in space because he wants to do this. It's not because it's the coolest thing on the block. It's because he wants to do something important. It's a contextual shift now. He doesn't want to be a NASA contractor. He wants to settle the universe. Somebody wants to go mine asteroids. They're not just rich kids in their toys now. They're doing something important. It's all part of a new conversation, a new image. It is an answer to the new, why do we do space? Why do we spend all that money in space when we could use it down here? Well, first of all, it's not your money anymore. It's his or her money. And by the way, when they do it, they're going to change the future for you down here so that the future that you're living into, the vista that lies ahead of you as a human being, is no longer one of ever-narrowing options as you are locked into a future that drives you towards more and more limits, and less hope, fewer and fewer options. Because when you go into space, it does this. And everything gets wider and bigger and better, and hope and possibility expand into an infinity. Literally. An infinity. This is what we're about. This is what I want to do. I want to build colonies in space. I want to see this happen. I want hope. I want to see this little planet right here. I want to see the people and civilization and life forms of this planet not only survive, not only thrive, but expand beyond the borders of this planet and move outward into space that is, as far as I know, a pretty dead place. And if there's life out there, we'll all go have some coffee or gargooch or whatever it is they drink in there. I'm a tree hugger, and I want to see trees on Mars. I want to see butterflies on the moon. I want to see babies born that go out there and look back at this planet and say, that's where we came from, and this is where I'm going. I'm excited about it. I want to start building the bridge now. And what I'm asking you, SEDS students, to think about is what you're going to do to help build that bridge so that we can all cross together. And all the bridges. Yes, and eventually Michael Wayne, who I don't know if he's here or whatever, but the space elevators, the vehicles, the multi-stage vehicles, the single-stage vehicles, the tethers, the this, that, the other, they're all going to happen. But we have to make it happen. And we can't make it happen by locking ourselves away in rooms and soldering a few things. That'll help. And you may create the breakthrough, especially if it's cold fusion. And you can go over here and you can fight your little fight and make sure that company X gets decision Y from the government so that they can build their little widget and get their extra money. And we can go over here and we can fight a few of these evil NASA people because they're all evil Satanists who worship. No, they don't. Change the conversation, change NASA's job, change everybody's job, change what it is we're talking about, change why we're talking about it. The future is an incredible place. It is something worth living into. That's your message, not rockets are cool. Yeah, they're cool to you, and that's part, you can go and do that. You get that. I want to see 100 SpaceXs. I want to see a dozen planetary resources. I want to see Virgin Galactics, and I want to see it all happening. I want you all to be employed. I want 1 million times 1 million of you to be employed in the next 1,000 years. I want you to build a habitat that I get to go up and retire in. I'll never retire, but I'll hang out there. It's an amazing future, and it is all up to you. You have to make the decisions in your organization. SEDS. You have to go back and meet with your leaders. And you have to decide what you are going to do about it, what messages you're going to carry, what jobs you're going to take on beyond the job that you want so that you can have more of that later on, so that you can create that new future. It's really up to you. The guys who took us to the moon the first time, the people, the hundreds of thousands of people, they did. They gave us that first step. Dr. O'Neill and the disciples and Jerry's kids, we've done the same. Now it's up to you to take the third, the fourth, the fifth, and build the bridge that we can all cross. Thanks. Anybody want a question? Good. All right, well, thank you.
Hey, question.
Uh-oh.
We're going to the bar next door. You want to come?
I'll come watch. I got really good at those bar meetings. Now I'm in AA. I got a PhD in that one, buddy. All right. Thank you very much. Must buy or steal, buy this book. This is the High Frontier. This is the Bible of our cause. This is the core from which we have been born as an organization, or as organizations. Dr. O'Neill was the godfather of soul of the space movement. He is the one who took a bunch of us who were not in NASA and said, you could participate in the opening of space. You could be a part of this. You don't have to work for an aerospace company or a government agency. Dimandis, Todd Hawley, myself, Jim Muncie, a whole bunch of us, Gary Barnard, all of us. We used to call ourselves Jerry's kids. He is the guy who gave us permission to dream that we could do something powerful and important and change the world. We were sitting where you're sitting right now, in a sense. From Dr. O'Neill, the L5 Society was born. The National Space Society, or a portion of it, was born. The first thing I want to mention is a couple of things. One, the first thing I'm going to mention is a couple of things. Okay, I'm going to start with a logical inconsistency. Earthlight Institute is an organization I've just been working on that is meant to fill the niche the niche, depending on how posh you are, of looking into the vision and working on the vision level activities for our movement. I believe that has been missing for quite a while. And it is something to me that is important, and we need to have it. We're looking at different things. We're working on the encyclopediagalactica.com. We're talking to SEDS about that. We'd love to have you on board. We're going to be looking at different sort of activities like open source hardware development and other sorts of activities. Pat Wallings, the space artist, is leading a team that's not Space Frontier Foundation, Earthlight Institute, ISU, SEDS. It all came from that root. I literally remember sitting around in Princeton in a bar. A lot of things happened in bars, probably still do, where we pledged our lives and fortunes to make this happen in our lifetime. And we were all around. We were there. Some of us had gone to bed early, Jim, but the rest of us were there, and he was there in spirit. And we're doing it. We're making it happen. It's going to happen in our lifetimes. Now, that's been our job today. It's getting us to this point. Our job has been to take that first, shall we say, step. I'll say second. I'll give credit to our heroes. Neil Armstrong, the people in the Apollo program, the people that got us to that, to be sort of creating a vision of the future that we can distribute to our community. So we're very excited about that. Another group that I'm very proud of is the Space Frontier Foundation. Space Frontier Foundation was doing space when commercial space and space settlement when it wasn't cool. And I urge you to go look up the history of the organization. If you see people with that little lapel pin on, go talk to them, ask them about it. We are the revolutionaries, and often they'll be wearing black. I don't know why, but black, it's the new black. We are about making this happen. We are excited about it. We live it. It's our cause. We've taken a lot of hits to get here. All of us have. But we are here. Now, a little bit of background here. This is really important. When you go in there to the bookstore that's in the display area, you point. So we've taken the second step. Now, I'm curious, because we're about to embark on the third step. How many of you guys here would love to work for SpaceX? How many would like to work for Virgin? Bigelow? And I'm sure some of you would love to go up to the space station. Anybody like to go do that? It's cool, isn't it? Yeah. And what's that? Oh my God! Oh my God, Chris missed one! Oh no! It made it through! Oh God! It hit Mojave! No! Oh God! Oh no! I just found out. Oh. Elon was in Mojave when the asteroid hit. And he was taking Bob Bigelow and Richard Branson and Burt Rutan